Because obviously, as he pointed out, it's one thing to abuse the system, quite another to respond promptly to that abuse. Is that abuse, which is the other side of responsibility, are you impressed with the way the Chief Justice has responded? Well, I mean, we don't know what he's doing for a start, but at least he's summoned them.
It's a very good decision, and let me just state it clearly that the Chief Justice can only bring these Chief Judges together. He cannot absolutely tell them, you must do this or do that, because there's independence between the states. I mean, the states have their own independence, they operate their own systems alongside the federal system. And so what the Chief Judges would be summoned to do is to actually provide explanation why this is on the rise and why politicians tend to visit state high courts rather than federal high courts, because it looks like the politicians are patronizing the state high courts because judges under the state high courts are easily susceptible to being in one way or the other, being
manipulable.
Yeah, manipulated, or being coerced in one way or the other to be able to do this. Maybe they are looking for their next promotion or something like that, something that's just to, give way. But it all points down to the system of discipline we have in the country. And that's the system of discipline for judges, is that we, as the public, are the ones that judges are supposed to be accountable to. Now, in other societies you go to, you see that the National Judicial Council, which is supposed to discipline judges, is not supposed to be populated by judges, because this is a set of judges judging judges.
That's a very good point, but let me ask you this, because the Chief Justice is part of that National Judicial Council. So, and the Judicial Council is there to discipline judges. Does that then give him the authority under the cloak of the National Judicial Council to take action if he finds that these judges did the wrong thing?
Yes. The NJC is an institution, so it's not necessarily about the Chief Justice of Nigeria himself, because it's not the Chief Justice that will sit down to listen to all of this and discipline the judges. It's a set of people who populate that institution. Now, what I'm saying is that in other societies, you see that institution being populated, including, people from the human rights communities, people from the civil society, people from the media, because it looks like the Nigerian society has left judges to judge judges who err. There's a sort of sympathy for some of the judges even when they go wrong. And so the punitive measures that are supposed to be handed down to judges who abuse ex parte orders do not come very fast. So because the process of the NJC is very long, it takes time before judges are disciplined. Now ask yourself, Charles, why are these ex parte orders coming more when the judiciary is on break? Now, the vacation judges need to be questioned. Is there a problem with vacation judges? Why are they being influenced more? Take example at the judgment that was initially given by Rivers State High Court in Port Harcourt that suspended the national chairman of Nigeria's major opposition party, the PDP. Now, the judge did not listen to the national chairman before suspending him. That's the opposition leader, official opposition leader in the country. And so once you just ask that the national chairman should be suspended from his position without even hearing from him, then the question beggars belief. What exactly is so important that you wouldn't have to hear from him before suspending him?
Absolutely.
So this calls to question the issuance of ex parte orders. And the NJC had previously stated that the issuance of ex parte orders should be reduced because even the government could be abusing the processes. Now, until we strengthen the process and speed up the process of disciplining judges who err by the NJC, there's a tendency that the judges will continue to abuse the process and politicians will continue to influence judges to abuse the process.
Excellent analysis. Let's return to the issue of ex parte orders. What do you think, Sumner, persuades these judges to hear these cases in favor of the applicants and to grant these so-called interim reprieves to them?
Okay, very interesting, Charles, that you're asking this. Let's state it very clearly. Ex parte orders have been put in place to help give reprieve to those who need it urgently. So there's a good aspect of it. That is to prevent a much more powerful person from using the weight of his or her office or institution to actually do something before your case is heard. So in this instance, yes, you could actually run to the court and the judge will just say, look, I'm issuing out this ex parte order for everyone to maintain the status quo. Maintain it until I've heard this case, and then the case is determined, then before eventually judgment will be passed and all of that. But of course, there has been an abuse, especially within the political system, because of the failure of conflict resolution mechanisms within political parties. There's a destruction of the internal democracy system of our political parties. And as long as politicians do not fix their political parties very well, the next option that they have is to jump to the courts. And once they finish corrupting their political parties and disrupting the processes that they themselves have agreed as conflict resolution mechanism, they now go to the courts and try to also corrupt the processes of the courts. Because if you're not trying to corrupt the processes of the court, why is it that you're seeking an urgent interim order to stop someone from advancing his particular decision or to go somewhere? Take a very clear instance at the Anambra elections that are forthcoming on November 6th. Almost the major political parties are facing constant crisis because of the failures of the internal conflict resolution mechanisms within their parties. Talk of the PDP, you have so many groups going to court, this one interim injunction here, and all of that. Even the leadership of the political parties are finding it difficult. Look
but the issue is not whether the politicians are seeking that sort of redress from the courts. Why are the courts bowing to that pressure?
Well, sometimes they come with a facade that makes the judge think that it's important to just grant this, because they will just come to the court and say, look, Judge, I'm seeking urgent protection from you right now, because if you don't do this, the time you may...
And democracy will collapse.
They'll just say democracy will collapse. You just have to do this now, because if you don't do it, they will submit the list to INEC, and once INEC takes the decision, it will take a long period of time. So the judge, in trying to see how they will arrest this situation, they will fall into it. But sometimes the judges will discover that most of the documents that are presented, even by lawyers, senior lawyers, were not really the situation. It was not really the situation, but because that is what was presented to them, and judges work based on documents and facts presented to them at that time.
They're simply interpreters.
They'll have to just grant reprieve, so that it doesn't look like that it's because of the failure of their actions that a particular party was injured. But the thing is that if the abuses are becoming so much, and then look at, for example, the aspect of APGA, the All Progressives Grand Alliance, which is the ruling party in Anambra State, where you had these 3 or 4 groups all having court injunctions. And the major problem was that they were getting these court injunctions from courts of coordinate jurisdiction. Courts that have concurrent powers. Now, they will go to Brendan Kebbi in Kebbi State, get a judge. You go to Jigawa, get a judge. You go to Oka, get another one. You go to Imo. Now, why is the other party not going to the Court of Appeal? Because if you go to the Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal as an appellate court will help to provide a judgment that will almost stop the other junior courts from determining that. But because they know that they may not have all the facts to actually win the case, they prefer to be doing what's called forum shopping. Shopping for court judgments from courts of coordinate jurisdiction. And it's a big challenge. That's why you've seen the Chief Justice of Nigeria asking these chief judges to come, because it's the chief judges that actually assign the judges of this state high courts.
That's a very good analysis.
If at that moment he has given that ex parte order without hearing from me,
which is the most dangerous. You may have an ex parte order tomorrow stopping President Muhammad Buhari or any other future president from doing his or her job. And that's why we've seen also some court orders that will purportedly be asking different institutions not to do their job. For example, you ask the National Assembly not to perform its own job. Meanwhile, there's we've had various court judgments that stated it clearly. The Supreme Court stated it clearly. No arm of government can stop another government from performing its function. The Federal Executive Council cannot stop the judiciary from performing its function. So the judiciary should also not stop the National Assembly from performing its function, because they are all enjoying separation of powers, all working in the interest of the public. That's why I said we have to understand the position of the judiciary in the kind of democracy we practice. Because if not, imagine a court granting an ex parte order on the Independent National Electoral Commission not to hold the presidential election. That's a recipe for anarchy.
Absolutely. left. But this is not limited to judges, though, is it? I mean, it's not just sanctioning the judges, this abuse of the system. Do you find that lawyers are also guilty?
I mean, absolutely. That's just what was on my mind.
Yeah.
The Nigerian Bar Association needs to do more.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of senior lawyers, including Senior Advocate of Nigeria, are actually exploiting this opportunity. The exparte orders, as I said before, are very good instruments for helping to grant reprieve to those who feel that the world is about to collapse on them right now. But when you see senior advocates of Nigeria who are supposed to know the law better abusing these processes for political gains or any other pecuniary gains, then you wonder why the legal disciplinary committee of the Nigerian Bar Association is not doing so much. So both the National Judicial Council and the Nigerian Bar Association needs to up their game.
Sumner, thank you very much indeed. Sumner Sambo, Arise Director of News as well as Political Editor